This is the Canon 5D Mark I, or the Classic, whichever you want to call it, or just a 5D, but that's what it is. You should always, if you're buying one of these, check the mirror, because some of the earlier models, the mirror used to fall off, so this one hasn't had a problem yet, so I'm just hoping and praying it's the one where they fixed it, or I've just been lucky. So I think if you look on YouTube, you can, if the mirror does fall off, you can actually put it back on or glue it back on, or there's actually some people have put the serial numbers on YouTube, which are the ones where this is likely to happen. Keep the dust out. One thing about this is, if you see, what was it? There, the focusing points. If you aren't going to use this camera, just forget about all those focusing points. Just set it on the middle one. Because that's the one that only works consistently. Well, you see that little square in the middle? That's a focusing point, and it should light up when you press the shutter when it's focusing, but it doesn't anymore. Well, it does, but it's such a low level you can't see it. This is why I advocate the Canon 5D Mark I as a good beginner's camera, because it's very, very simple. So all you have is, that'll shoot JPEGs, this green square, program mode where everything's taken care of, TV mode, which is shutter priority, I think I forgot that, AV mode, aperture priority. There's a manual, which is quite good for learning how to treat this camera like a film camera, and B, bulb, so if you have a self timer or something like that, or a remote timer plugged in, you can use a bulb mode. And C, one programmable setting, so you can, your favorite setting, wherever it is, you can program that in. So that's all you've got, and that's all you really need. I've just shot 3 exposures with the Canon 5D Mark I, or the Classic. What I've done is I've shot it straight, shot it with the polarizer, and then I've put the infrared R72 filter on just to see what it looks like in infrared. So that's the one thing about this camera, you can also shoot infrared with it without modifying it, as long as it's a long exposure, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to push through infrared light through the low pass filter, which is quite weak on this, but it does let the infrared through eventually. And also you can't really sort of meter through it, because I tried it and it doesn't work. So what I've done is I usually set it to f11, 100 ISO, and usually on warm days it's between 30 seconds and say 20 seconds exposure. So you've got to use a tripod for it, and that's what I've done. So if you want to see what it sort of looks like with infrared, I'll put that over. There we are. That's what it looked like in infrared. For those who know about film photography, the Canon 5D Mark I has the look of Kodak portrait film, but the exposure latitude of Kodachrome. I've come into the shade to show you the menu system. So I just press menu and there you have it. That's as bright as it gets. So that's the problem with these old screens. You can't quite see what you're doing. So it's just simple. You got, oh, I'll lock that up. Raw, all those different levels. So there's JPEGs on the left and RAW plus JPEGs, and then only RAW on the right. So you got different levels of compression and size. So you can shoot this with RAW. I don't shoot JPEG myself because I normally put it through a program, you see. I normally put it through Canon Photo Digital Professional, and the reason is because you actually get quite a better, sharper JPEG if you do it through the software than you do it with the camera. I think because the software is a bit more sophisticated rather than the software in the camera that does it. So you can have it beep when it's focused. I've got that off. Shoot without cards, so you can tether it. I don't know where, I've never tried that, I haven't did anything with it. Exposure compensation, so you can have 3 shots anywhere between plus or minus 2 stops in third of a stop increments, and then white balance, shift and bracketing, I don't use that. Custom white balance, I don't use that. I normally set the colour temperature because I normally shoot this in sort of reasonably sunny weather, you see. It doesn't do well in sort of dull weather. If the tones are all crammed towards the shadow end, it sort of looks a bit muddy and grainy. But also you've got to be careful about the highlight end because you can quite easily clip the highlights. Colour space, sRGB. We can have it Adobe RGB, just because most of the stuff goes on the web nowadays. Picture style, yeah, see, I've got the picture style standard, but I modified it. I've got it at +7 for the sharpness, -1 for the contrast, and +1 for the saturation, and just left the color tone, you know, magenta and green tint as it is. So I mean, you can see the details. If you've got jumps there we are. Sharpness right at the top, contrast 1 down, saturation and color tone the same. So, and then don't use that, never touch that, never use that. Autoplay, oh no, don't ever use that. Review time 8 seconds. You can alter this. I use it because I want to see what I'm doing. autofocus points displayed. That can display on the back of the camera, on the actual screen itself once you've taken it. I'll set it to histogram, to the brightness, or you can set it to RGB. I prefer brightness, unless it's something where it's actually quite dull and you want, you know, to check on whether the blue channel is clipping, you know, or it's cool, should I say, or it's red, or the red channel's clipping, then you put it onto RGB. Power off, 1 minute, auto rotate on, LCD brightness up to that, because if I do put it on mid, you can't see what you're doing in bright weather, so it's up to maximum. Date and time, blah blah, select folder, English, PAL, that's when you're viewing it through a TV. Format, custom functions, you've got mirror lockup, which is useful. I use that sometimes, and all the rest are pretty sort of standard. I won't go into that because I can never remember what it is. Auto noise reduction, that's for long exposures, and function, so that's for image replay. So that's about it. In clear settings, sensor cleaning, and the firmware. That's it. That's all you got. So that's all you really need. If I look at the pictures that I've taken, you see that's the infrared one. That's 30 seconds. I really should have given a bit longer and shoved this exposure up further into the high end of the range, but you need a cable release, or what we call it, a digital release or self timer to sort of do that. So but 30 seconds at f11 gives you the range. You can see how short it's, like 1, 2, 3 stops is the whole range when you're shooting infrared. So you got to stretch that out so it looks like a normal photograph. Right, I'll go there we are. So I've just shot this. I think that one was with the polarizer, and just different exposures. They're sort of bracketed just to push it to see where at what point the highlight clips. See, on some cameras on my 5D Mark II that would be okay, but I suspect those blinkies, but I suspect on this camera that is not okay. Right, I'm at the Corbeck Sheepdog Trials. I'm just testing out the Canon 5D Mark I with the 70-200 lens. I'm just doing everything handhold from now on, and see if this is still a good camera in 2024. Well, I've just set the aperture at 2.8, which is wide open on this one, and 100 ISO, because you can't set at auto ISO on this old camera. Well, here's the raw file for the Canon 5D Mark I. Just look at those skin tones. Beautiful. That's what it was known for. Has an almost sort of filmic look. And I've just put it through the Canon Digital Photo Professional, and it just increased the skin tones a bit. So, very nice. We can't zoom in that far because they're only 13 megapixels big. There's one thing you've got to watch out on these files is the highlight detail tends to fall apart quite rapidly and you can't recover. Even though this has got colour in the highlight on that guy's shoulder, there is no detail to be recovered. And the shadows tend to block up quite quickly.
No. Yeah, some I would like to go up, but I don't know if I've never let dogs get one. I've never let a stick to.
My idea on this one was to just drop the focus out, everything apart from the actual shepherdess, but this hasn't worked out. So it looks like it's motion blur, but it's not, it's just lens blur. So really this sort of subject doesn't work well for this. So next time I'll just stick to closer portraits with this lens.
Ladies and gentlemen, I thoroughly enjoyed judging it. I wouldn't like to run two dogs out there, but I had three very brave people went out there and took a turn. The winner is an outstanding run by Bevis Jordan. And, very good.